Welcome back. You're still watching The Globe. Let's go back now to the spokesperson for the Trade Union Federation, COSATU, who is starting to tell us just before the break how difficult today has been at this time where the country and the world actually is facing this global pandemic. Mr. Pamla, thanks so much indeed for joining us. I think we started talking about, we're supposed to be celebrating on Workers' Day, but I suppose there's so many issues that you're concerned about as a trade union federation.
Indeed, like I was saying, we are living in an uncertain world where we don't know what is going to happen going forward. Globally, the economic system, we are unsure what kind of economic system we're going to have. As workers are struggling really to keep on to their jobs because businesses are going to be retrenching at an alarming rate going forward. So we are facing an economic firestorm. And as things stand now, there's very little to celebrate. Of course, we take this day seriously because it reminds us of the struggles that we have overcome before. So even this one, we take this as an opportunity to make sure that we reflect so that we can prepare ourselves for the struggles ahead.
All right, so your president today was calling on government in particular, and I guess companies generally, not to retrench during this difficult time. How possible is that when your economy is sinking? Where will the money come from to pay the workers?
No, the call that we were making actually is the fact that there's a money that has been set aside to help these companies to stay afloat. So we were saying that if you are going to take that money from government, you also have to bring something in return. It means that we don't want a situation where people are going to go and ask for bailouts and ask for more incentives from government, and at the same time, they are not going to bring any commitments to the table. Anyone who's going to get a bailout, anyone who's going to be asking or extracting some more concessions from government, they have to bring something in return. So those are the companies that have to be forced to make sure that if you take the money, then you put a moratorium on retrenchment so that we try and figure our way out of this economic quagmire that confronts us. But it will be unfair for taxpayers' money to be used to bail companies, and at the same time, these companies are not forced to commit to anything.
All right. What about those companies that are not getting any help from government? What about the workers working there?
Well, look, the principle is that we would like to see a situation where everybody, where all of the employers do everything to make sure that they do not retrench. And like we have said, that we all have to figure this out collectively. There is no government that is going to fix this on its own. And there is no private sector that can claim that it has all the tools at its disposal to actually navigate this without working with other social partners. So the goal we are making is that we need to go back to the social compact that we've been talking about and try and navigate this certain period as a collective, because if we start to look after ourselves and forget about the interest of others, then it will start very slow.
What are the workers and labour bringing to the party? Because what I'm hearing at the moment is what you expect the employers to do. Is there anything that you can do to help the organisations, perhaps a reduction in pay, job sharing, that kind of thing?
Well, like I said, right now we don't even know what we are dealing with. We don't even know what are the solutions that are going to be expected of any of us. So until we get to that stage where we understand what we are dealing with, and then we look at the merits and demerits of each and every request or proposal that is put on the table, it would be a little bit unfair for anyone to come and say this is what workers are prepared to do. Because we are not at a stage where we know what is it that needs to be done going forward. So, of course, there will be trade-offs. There will be compromises, and we'll continue to negotiate. But no one should be starting to demand concessions from people when there are no proposals on the table as to how to navigate the post-COVID-19 economic landscape.
It's been 36 days now with this lockdown, and I wonder, have you been able to assess the effects so far for a lot of your workers?
Well, it's been very difficult for workers, firstly because we know an organization like UIF, for an example, it was never designed for a situation like this. So there's been a lot of struggle when it comes to workers accessing their wages. Unfortunately, not all the employers have been cooperative. So this has really compromised many of our members, but workers in general. So it's been a very difficult period. But also what we have seen is a situation where some employers have decided to retrench without actually even waiting for the month of April to be over. And now we know that some of these people are not actually retrenching because of a lockdown, but they are retrenching because that is what they were planning since the beginning of the year. So the lockdown just gave them an excuse to actually implement some of the proposals or decisions that were already in the pipeline. So it's been a very difficult period all round, but we continue to fight and we continue to make sure that as trade unions working with other federations and trade unions will represent our members and make sure that those who are opportunistically using this to actually implement the plans that were already in the pipeline do not get away with that level of carelessness and recklessness.
All right. So there are some people at work, essential workers, and I just wonder, in terms of safety, are you happy that employers are doing their best for your members?
Look, it's a very difficult situation because even the government, as an employer, has been failing many of our members when it comes to personal protective equipment. But look, we do understand that most of these equipments have to be imported outside of our borders. But we are slightly seeing some improvement since we managed to have a sit down with the Minister of Health to address especially the issue of the health professionals and frontline workers. There's progress, but when it comes to the private sector, we see some indifferent attitudes from some employers, and we're unhappy with the lack of cooperation from some employers. But we are hoping that as we reopen gradually the economy going forward, people need to realize that protecting their workers is actually good for them, because only healthy and productive workers will be able to assist them or their businesses to survive. So if people do not take care of their own employees, then those businesses that they are trying to reopen will not survive for long.
We are now in level 4 of the national lockdown. Transport has always been an issue, actually, right from the get-go. How are your members managing? Are employers assisting with getting people to work and home, especially beyond the hours that the normal taxis are operating?
That has been an area. That is an area where we have failed to really reach any consensus in the network, because most of these employers have refused to take responsibility for providing transport. Even government in urban areas, we've been making a call to say, when you have got municipal bus and other infrastructure, you need to start utilizing that infrastructure to make sure that you make it easier for these workers to be able to go to work without them being compromised by a transport system that is unreliable and is unsafe. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any enthusiasm coming on the side of the employers to embrace this idea, but we continue to fight, we continue to insist, and we want to make it very clear that if they fail to take this seriously, the approach that we're adopting as we are gradually reopening the economy is that workers, we are going to encourage them to down tools. if they feel that they are not properly protected. And if these employers don't take seriously the issue of providing safe and reliable transport for their employees, we will get to a point where we'll tell these workers to stay at home until these issues are addressed. So we are sending a clear warning to these employers to say this issue of transport, they have to start taking it seriously. We understand that they don't have unlimited resources, but they need to work with all stakeholders to make sure that we find a workable solution to keep these workers safe as they go back to work.
All right, so Mr. Pamla, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. That was the spokesperson of COSATU talking to us on a very important day for Labour, and that's a Workers' Day today, of course, being marked not in the usual big ceremonial way because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And a big message there really was that companies shouldn't use the cover of COVID-19 to carry out plans of retrenchments, and that any company that gets assistance from government should be forced not to follow through with retrenchments that have been planned.